Welcome to Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Lori Pierce. Today we're going to be talking with Aaron Mack, a professional firefighter with the Davenport Fire Department. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, we're glad to have you today, and today we're going to talk about some important fire safety tips with the holidays right around the corner. So can you tell us a little bit about fire safety?
Fire safety has quite a long history, dating back to the early colonies that were established in this country. And so we can see a lot in history, and we try to learn from the history. And as things have evolved over time, we try to stay ahead of the challenges that are associated with fire and the hazards. Fire can be a good thing. We can use it to cook and heat our homes, but along with that comes a lot of responsibility. Yeah. So there are certain things that we have to keep in mind as we go about those things: cooking, heating, the use of electrical appliances and things like that in the holiday season. So it's important that we stay ahead of that and adhere to that, those proven fire safety principles. Sure.
So is it true on Thanksgiving it's kind of like the peak time for home cooking fires?
It is. Statistically, the National Fire Protection Association tracks all of that. They're a wealth of knowledge and data. And again, lessons learned from previous years, we try to, again, stay ahead of that and keep the public informed about the dangers of cooking. And
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you say is the #1 cause of fires during the holiday season? Would it be the cooking or the candles or the lights on our trees?
It's cooking is still the leading cause. 67% of all home fires in the winter occur from cooking. It's usually from 5 to 8 p.m. But again, when we throw other things into the mix like holiday decorations, whether it be Christmas trees, portable space heaters, candles, that definitely adds to what could be the problem.
Sure. So how often do you think fires occur during this time of the year? A lot more than normal?
Yeah, statistically they do occur more frequently in the winter time. Again, that's when we're heating our homes. We are staying home more frequently, and we're cooking. And again, when we bring in things like Christmas lights, portable space heaters, if we have malfunctioning heating equipment like furnaces in the home, a lot more potential for those accidents to occur.
Yeah.
So.
And even like with the Christmas lights, when we're putting them up, we should probably check the strands, make sure there's, no lights out, stuff like that.
Absolutely. It's a good idea just to take all those Christmas tree light strands and stretch them out end to end and plug them in. And as we test the bulbs and replace them, we should be looking at the strand itself, making sure nothing's frayed, nothing's worn, that there are no bare spots in it, again, which could present a fire hazard.
Yeah. So I know we're really talking about the holiday season right now, but is there fire safety equipment in the house that we should never be without any time during the year?
Absolutely. With the advent of smoke detectors, we've seen a nationwide decrease in the number of home fires. We're still not happy with that high number, but it's made a dramatic improvement in warning the occupants of the home that there is a fire and to give them that time to escape. Mm-hmm. Other things like a fire extinguisher is always a good idea to have at home.
Okay, and I see we have some of these here.
Yep.
So as far as the smoke detector, is there a certain time that you would recommend changing the batteries in this?
Yep. #1, having a smoke detector is good, but it's only as good as we allow it to be. And if we install it properly and maintain it properly, again, that's what we're looking for to give us that advanced warning of a fire. So if we do things like change the batteries, if it's a battery operated one, change them twice a year. The easiest way just to remember that is when you change the clocks, change your batteries. Test them monthly. Again, we're not going to know that it's not functioning unless we test it. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay. Well, let's move on to deep frying turkeys. So what are the dangers of deep frying some turkeys?
Deep frying turkeys really just come from overfilling the deep fryer. Okay. Placing a turkey that is too large for that container, and with the amount of liquid in there, it's going to make it overflow. And obviously, cooking oil is flammable, and when it reaches the flames, you have a very large fire.
Yes, yeah. So, is it true that 1 of every 3 Christmas tree fires are caused by electrical problems?
It is another nationwide statistic. As firefighters, we have governmental institutions and others that are very good at keeping data, and 1 of every 3 are from electrical malfunctions or problems.
Wow. What about heat sources? I know you recommend probably not putting trees by any type of a heat source.
Yep, Christmas trees should be at least 3 feet away from any heat source. Again, a cause of fires, about 1 in 6 come from a Christmas tree being placed too close to a heat source.
Okay. And I know if you have a Christmas tree and it's a live Christmas tree, it could be a hazard if it dries out.
Absolutely.
So how often would you recommend watering that tree?
The experts tell us water them daily.
Okay.
They should be in a sturdy stand made specifically for a natural Christmas tree. It's got a bowl in it that holds the water, keeps it hydrated. There's actually a good video that we have through the U.S. Fire Administration, a side-by-side comparison. 1 tree that has a hydration of 100% and then 1 that has 10%. So the 10% one not being watered very much, they were both ignited. The one that was 100% hydrated did not burn. The one that was only 10% hydrated or had the 10% moisture content was consumed by fire in less than 1 minute.
Wow. So I know I read before that if you got a live tree that you should cut off the bottom and maybe that would help when you water it. Do you guys recommend that?
Yeah, again, we go back to the experts and they say if you can cut off about 2 inches of the trunk of the tree when you get it home right before it goes into that bowl of water in the stand, that's best to allow the uptake of water through the trunk and to keep it hydrated.
Okay, so we've kind of covered the live tree. So what are artificial trees a better option?
It all depends on who you are and what you want. Some people like that natural Christmas tree look and the smell, but for those people who don't want the added expense every year, the artificial trees are a good option. Again, along with that comes just placing it in a sturdy stand, and again, going back to the fire safety related to the Christmas tree light strands, make sure that they're checked if you're going to put those on and with other decorations.
Okay, and so I know a lot of people, they like to add a lot of lights, so they tend to maybe connect a lot of them together.
Yes, and the manufacturers will have specific instructions on how many strands you can place together end to end, and usually it's 3.
Okay.
But I would follow the directions. Before I even get to that point, I would make sure that the Christmas tree lights that I'm purchasing are tested and approved by an agency such as Underwriters Laboratories.
Okay. And also, I guess, make sure that if you're going to use them outdoor, it says outdoor use.
That they're meant for outdoor use,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we have a fire extinguisher sitting right here in front of us. So how do we know if the fire extinguisher is still good?
For home use, these typically have a gauge on them, and it'll show what should be the amount of pressure inside the cylinder.
Okay.
And if we take a look at that and it says full, then we know we're okay. The manufacturers will still have recommendations on how long we can trust that to be accurate and before we would have to look at purchasing a new one to replace it.
Okay. And another, I guess, candles is another option where people like to burn candles this time of year. They love the smell in the house, but they can present a hazard also.
Yep, absolutely. Candles definitely a cause of fire in the winter season, and we like to have our candles out for the Christmas season as well. So that's fine, but along with that comes responsibility. So we need to think about placing candles, again, at least 12 inches away from anything else around it that can burn. We want to put them in some type of a sturdy holder. Definitely keep them out of reach of small children, and never leave a candle burning if we're going to go to bed or if we're going to leave the home.
Okay. And I think you brought some great examples here that are flameless candles.
Flameless candles, yep. These are battery-operated candles. They're generally inexpensive. They run on a small watch-type battery, and will run for hours. It's even got a flicker to it that kind of looks like a real candle.
Yeah.
So,
and there really isn't a fire hazard at all with that, is there?
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
And I think I've seen before too that you can even get some that smell if people like the smell of candles.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, they carry some type of an odor or a pleasant accent to them, if you will.
Wonderful. So where can viewers go if they want to get some more information on fire safety?
Viewers can get access to fire safety for any time of year or for any place by going to the National Fire Protection Association's website or the U.S. Fire Administration's website.
Okay. So do you have any other closing thoughts that you would like our viewers to remember?
Again, fire can be a good thing. We can use it to cook. We can use it to heat our homes. We can have nice fires in a fireplace. But again, we can look at the kind of damage and destruction that fire can cause.
Right.
And we need to learn from history and stay in touch with the public education that the fire departments offer. And with that said, as a member of a fire department, professional association, we have to be very good stewards about sharing information that we learn. We can't just take in the data and let it sit, but we have to share that and make an intentional effort to make sure every person understands that and give them that access.
Wonderful. So. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for this very wonderful information for holiday fire safety.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's my pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be right back with more Joy in Our Town.
More than 600 people are living with HIV and AIDS in the Quad Cities.
Over 150 of them don't know it.
The project at the Quad Cities provides support to hundreds of individuals and their families in Iowa and Illinois.
We've performed thousands of confidential HIV tests and helped HIV-positive mothers give birth to 18 HIV-negative babies.
Our mission, your life, the project of the Quad Cities, committed to action in the battle against HIV, STI, AIDS.
Imagine a place where you can see the Bible come to life. From the Garden of Eden and the historic land of Israel, through the life of Jesus, to the glory of heaven. Imagine yourself at the Holy Land Experience in Orlando, Florida. Imagine ancient Israel through the Wilderness Tabernacle, the streets of Jerusalem, and the Great Temple. Imagine living in the days of David and Bathsheba, one of the Old Testament prophets, or the Apostle Paul. Imagine seeing the transforming power of Jesus come to life in those you've only read about. Imagine being an eyewitness to the life of Jesus, His miracles, His love, His sacrifice, and His final victory. Imagine being in the upper room for communion, following Jesus into baptism, walking through historic and peaceful gardens, or praying at the Wailing Wall. Imagine seeing the great scenes from the life of Jesus depicted in stunning fashion. Imagine the journey of God's Word through the ages, from tablets to scrolls to the printing press. Imagine the life and work of angels yesterday and today. Imagine being in the ark or the belly of a whale, crossing the Red Sea, or walking on the water with Jesus. Imagine this. And then see it at the Holy Land Experience in Orlando, Florida. Plus miracle moments, the Jerusalem model, Bethlehem, the Jesus boat, the Stations of the Cross, special guest speakers and musicians, the stunning Church of All Nations Auditorium, and the crystal living waters. Can you imagine it? Then live it. Imagine yourself at TBN's Holy Land Experience in Orlando, Florida.
You're watching TBN, part of the Trinity Broadcasting family of networks.
Welcome back to Joy in Our Town. Today we're talking with Aaron Mack, Lieutenant of Davenport Fire Department. Welcome back to the show, Aaron.
Thanks, Lori.
So let's kind of recap what we were just talking about a little bit with fire prevention.
Okay, so we talk about fire prevention and fire safety, focused specifically here today, winter fire safety or safety during the holidays. We statistically see in a recent 4-year period that about 900 people die every year of winter home fires. Causes roughly $2.1 billion worth of damage, and it typically occurs in 1 and 2 family homes. So that's our problem. We have some solutions for the viewers, very practical steps they can take to protect themselves, and it starts with prevention.
Sure. So I see we have some things on the table here, maybe that we should talk about first of all for prevention.
Absolutely, yep. First and foremost, we have our smoke detector. These can come in a number of options. So we have battery operated ones, we have hardwired ones, we have a combination of both battery and hardwired. Okay. Obviously if it's a battery operated one, it's got to have a working battery in it. So we go back to our batteries have to be changed at least twice a year. The only way we know that it's working is if we test it, and we should do that once a month. Okay. Ideally, if they're going to be in a home, it's best if they're wired, if they are hardwired, they're wired in series so that if one detects a fire on a lower level of the home, it alerts all occupants no matter how many levels you have.
Oh, great.
So they should be installed, they should be installed in every bedroom and on every level of the home, including the basement.
Wonderful. So you also have carbon monoxide here also. Where do you recommend that we have these in our home?
Carbon monoxide, again, the experts are telling us they should be on every level of the home. Again, if they could be wired in series so that if one alarms, they all alarm. But it will detect carbon monoxide, that colorless, invisible gas that occurs from incomplete combustion, usually of heating equipment inside the home. So again, a very necessary option to have for the prevention to protect us.
Sure. Yeah, especially with all the cooking that we'll be doing over the holiday season, for both of those items would be very important.
Yes, yes. And with cooking, we have our dry chemical fire extinguisher. It's an ABC type, so it works for ordinary combustibles, cooking, and for electrical fires.
Okay. So it kind of brings up the point, let's say we're in the kitchen and we're cooking our holiday dinner, got a lot of guests over, and we start a fire accidentally. Recommend grabbing that? Should we fight that ourselves first? Depending.
I'm of the mindset that if we can do something immediately to keep that fire from growing, that we do something. Now we know from past experiences, not so good outcomes, that the very worst thing we can do is throw water on a cooking fire, but that might be our natural instinct.
Sure.
The best thing we can do, whether using a fire extinguisher or even sprinkling some baking soda on an open pot that's burning, or sometimes we've been able to put fires out with taking a wash rag, soaking it in water real quick, and then putting it over the pan or the pot that's on fire.
Helpful,
yeah.
Useful tip.
Yep.
So we have candles here too. We all love to burn candles during this time of year.
Yes, yes.
But we have some flameless options here.
Okay, so we have the flameless candles here. They're battery operated. There's small watch-type batteries that go on the bottom.
Okay.
There's just a single switch there. As we can see, it even has a little flicker to it, but no real fire danger with that.
Sure. So we're about to move on to our big tree here, but I see we have the plug-in strip there.
Yes.
Is there a recommendation when we're doing Christmas trees and lightings for those strips?
Yes. Again, what we've seen over the years is people use either too many Christmas tree light strands, we've plugged too many in together, we've overloaded them. Maybe we use the flimsy extension cords. And the extension cords aren't bad, they're meant for that use, but we have to keep in mind that they're not meant to be used all of the time. They should be used only when we're in the home. So again, with anything, I would say any kind of a decoration, a lighted decoration, we should be unplugging it if we're going to go to bed or if we're going to leave the home. But a surge protector is going to help us with the problem of if we do overload something or if there's some type of electrical malfunction, the breaker in that is going to trip and it will shut off the power to that decoration or light.
Okay,
so.
Great. And then for outside, you know, as long as that's an approved outlet and extension cord, those are fine?
Exactly, yeah. If it's meant to be used outdoors, it should state on there specifically by the manufacturer that it's meant for outdoor use.
Okay. So now we're going to move on to the big, beautiful tree that we love to
All right.
decorate.
Yes.
And we have all these lights. So what's maybe the first rule before we are putting in the lights on the tree?
First rule is we're going to take our light strand that we've unpacked for the year, and we like to stretch these out end to end, and we can plug them in, and that's when we can start doing our inspection. Not just making sure that the light bulbs work, but we're looking at the strands, and we're looking for any abrasions on there, or any cuts, or any melting from a malfunction. So once we've done that, we know it's good to use. The manufacturers, again, will put on here their specific instructions for how many light strands we can plug end to end to be used on a tree or another type of decoration. So we should keep that in mind. Whatever they recommend, that's what we're meant to do.
Okay, so then talking about the Christmas tree, what are some fire safety tips you could give us with that?
Okay, so fire safety tips for any Christmas tree, whether natural or artificial, is number one, keep it at least 3 feet away from any heat source. We know statistically that any type of a Christmas tree being placed too close to a heat source is a contributing factor to a lot of winter home fires. So with the artificial trees, we've got our Christmas tree light strands. Again, we're going back to looking at the manufacturer's instructions. It's an approved light strand. We don't want to plug too many light strands into each other. With a natural tree, again, we want to have that in a specific stand, a sturdy stand that has the bowl for the water, and we want to add water to that daily to keep it well hydrated.
Yeah. So I know we're talking about the trees and decorating them and all of that, but do you have anything you can tell us about maybe an experience you guys have had with the Christmas tree fire?
Christmas tree fires, again, I think a lot of the times when we see those occur in the home is we've overloaded it with lights, maybe lights that we've had some type of electrical malfunction, or again, if it's placed too close to a heat source, like a fireplace, like a portable space heater, maybe it's been left on and the occupants of the home are gone or asleep, and that creates a lot of problems. It's an unintended combustible thing that we have inside our homes, and again, if we don't look at these tips that we've gotten from learning from previous occurrences, then we're destined to have more problems again.
Right.
So
I know a lot of people like to put lights around their windows and that, and then there's curtains and all of that. Is that a problem?
Again, not a problem if we're using Christmas tree light strands, if we're using light strands that are approved. We don't want to plug too many together. We don't want to use too many extension cords or three-way adapters that might overload. It's always a good idea, again, to use a surge protector. If we're using something that has, again, if we're looking at using real candles are fine, but again, we have to keep in mind that it's something that can actually start a fire if it's being placed too close to something, or if it's knocked over onto something.
Well, I had just recently heard about they're recommending keeping bedroom doors closed when we go to bed, and I know all the lights should be off by then, but do you recommend that?
I do, yeah. I've seen firsthand the experiments that have come out of Governor's Island in New York, and we as the fire service took a lot of lessons away from fire behavior, but then also for the citizens, the consumers, there's a lot of lessons in there too, and one of those was they had a side-by-side comparison inside one of the buildings. You had a bedroom with the door closed, and then right next to it, a bedroom at the top of the stairs with the bedroom door open. And fire was allowed to progress, travel up the stairway, and we had instrumentation and other equipment in each room. And it showed by far the most damage was done in the bedroom with the door open. The bedroom with the door closed had some elevated temperatures and some minor smoke damage, but nothing compared to the other bedroom, which sustained quite a bit of loss. And if you would have had occupants in that bedroom, the survivability profile would have been very, very low. It would have made it very hard for somebody to come out of that room.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, and I know that doesn't have, you know, like I said, all the lights should be off by then, but I guess just a good helpful tip for our viewers.
Yeah, yep. And again, we as a fire service learned from that, but one thing we've always known is to help control the fire, to gain control of the fire, if we can gain control of the airflow inside of a building of any type, we can start to control that fire.
Okay. Well, do you have any other helpful hints that you would like to leave our viewers with as far as when they're decorating for the holidays or cooking and having family over?
Yeah, again, going back to prevention, one thing that I didn't mention before was in the event that there is a fire, and we hope that never happens to our viewers, but you have to have a plan, and we like to say, if you fail to have that plan, you plan to fail. Right. So as a family, we should be sitting down and talking amongst ourselves about what are we going to do in the event we have a fire in our home. Mm-hmm. So that involves knowing 2 ways out. Mm-hmm. So if we're in a bedroom, we have a door, we have a window. Once we get outside, we stay outside. We never go back in for anything. If we can come to a designated meeting place, that's ideal. Some place that mom, dad, the kids are always going to remember. It's something that doesn't move. It's a tree, it's a fence post, it's a fire hydrant, something where we all go to meet. And it's important for us, once we are outside, we call 911, we give them the details of the emergency, any other helpful information about where the fire may have started, if there are people still inside, things like that. That's what we want to know. Yeah,
and I think I'm not sure if you guys actually go into the schools, but I know they teach a lot of this to the kids at school also about fire prevention. And, I know my children have come home before and said, hey, it's time to talk about the plan, Mom and Dad.
Yeah, we are very good about that. There was a move early in the 20th century to identify fire prevention as something that the fire service needed to take on nationwide. And a lot of it came out of the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. So that's why we picked the month of October, and specifically the time of the month, usually around the 9th of October, to start talking about fire prevention in the schools and then also to the general public.
Great. Well, Aaron, you've given us a lot of great information today about how to keep safe during the holiday season.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you so much for tuning in today, and take heed of all the great information we have today. We'll see you next time on Joy in Our Town.
This program has been sponsored by the Trinity Broadcasting Network and made possible by your telethon dollars. Your continual support can keep Joy in Our Town brought to your home every day. So write Joy in Our Town, P.O. Box A, Santa Ana, California, 92711.
You're watching TBN, part of the Trinity Broadcasting family of networks.